Hello, hello, everyone. We're excited. We have another great show that's about to kick off. We have Bobbi Muzic in the building. Bobbi, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's last minute. I know you're a busy lady, always helping people, solving problems, creating solutions. So, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing and how you're adding value in the world today.
Sure. Hi, guys, and thank you for having me. I actually own the Branding Lady, which is a company that specifically targets small business owners, small to medium businesses, and help them appear as they are doing big business in their industry. And I find that it's a lot, you could be great at what you do, your craft, your service, or your product, but sometimes
Mhm.
you don't know how to make that digital image pop or to
Right.
how to make your systems work seamlessly or automate them so that you're not having to put your hands everywhere.
Mhm.
And that's basically what I do is I just help people solve those issues, but also look amazing while doing it.
Yeah, so you've been in the entertainment industry for a while. I guess I want to start from the beginning. How did you get into the entertainment industry? Sometimes people say it can be a real challenge. I've been a part of the industry. It is a challenge as far as I know because I had a production company at one time. You feel like you're just chasing your tail in circles. So
Yep.
what attracted you to that business and how have you become successful over the years?
Yeah. So this is a fun story and I'm happy to share it. I grew up different than a lot of people. I was primarily raised by my dad,
Mm.
who was a double faceted person. He was a very creative person. So he was a musician and he was also a computer engineer.
Ah,
And that was like my beacon. But in our house, we lived with my nonna. It was a typical Italian household, nonna, papa, and uncles, and the kids.
ah,
And below us, below my bedroom specifically, my uncle had a recording studio. And
ah.
so since I was a kid, there were guitars and drums, and I knew what MIDI was in the like late 80s, early 90s. Like I was kind of always around it.
Mhm.
And so it made me, at that time, I was like, yes, I know exactly what I'm going to do with my life.
Right.
I'm going to follow in my family's footsteps. And my uncle at that time was a very talented sound engineer. So he would go over like all over the country and record big shows and concerts. And um, I decided early on in my life that I was going to, I wanted to become an A&R. That was the plan,
Ah,
that I
got
was
it.
going to be an A&R because I understood technically the sound, but I also love to, I guess, paint the picture. And that's what A&Rs do. They take like a great, unique, it's usually like an X factor uniqueness of an artist, and they build around that artist, and they use the different things in pop culture and find a lane for them and find out if it's going to work. And so I really wanted to go into that realm of the business. So I went to Full Sail, which a lot of people know. It was at that, this was 20 years ago, not telling my age, but it was
Oh,
20 years ago.
yeah.
And I was one of five women in a class of 300 that was going to be an audio engineer. Because I knew that in order to be an A&R, I figured, especially being a woman, I had to know from the ground up, like from the bottom, from every aspect of production to recording. Um, I needed to know all of it in order to be successful at that last step that I wanted to do.
Got it.
And so I went to Full Sail and graduated. And after that, it was something I ended up shipping myself. There was a lot of things in between that I'm just the type of person that goes after the stars. So if I say, okay, I'm going to do this, I do it. And the year I graduated from college with my audio engineering degree, I was ready to fly. Unfortunately, that same year, my dad passed away.
Ah,
And that was really difficult because now I was going to fly, but I didn't have the safety net that always like caught me. And I really had no clue what I was going to do. So my godbrother lived in LA, And he said, come out here. You can, do stuff out here. You can engineer, meet people, whatever. So I shipped my car. I was 22 at the time. I shipped my car, and I went to Hollywood. And with him, thank goodness, I did meet people, but it was very much a man's world.
Ah,
And hence, that's why you'll see like most of the names that I name myself are the music lady or the branding lady.
mhm.
I like to identify that that is me and that I am just as strong as, any man. But
Absolutely.
but growing up, that was like, so I went to Hollywood and I ended up in the Hollywood Hills. I was recording with different producers up there. I actually ended up living and building a DC with like the clothing company is partnered with Danny Way, who's a huge X Games skater. I was building his studio, living amongst those guys, and just immersed myself in the industry. But again, um, I could be at that time the smartest person in the room, but I was also a woman and I was very timid. And I was also just new. I didn't know what
Hmm.
and how to make it happen for myself. So throughout time, I ended up going into working. I realized I liked engineering, but I loved to see a vision and make it real. And that
Got
was
it.
something that I ended up going on to um, doing more branding and marketing for different artists. I worked with the label Plum Music, who had number one artist at the time on the billboards. And I saw that whole process and just the licensing and every piece of the industry that is available to grab money. And I was like, this is amazing. But at the same time, there is a dark side to the music industry. And
Sure.
I'm sure a lot of women, there's a lot of women speaking out now, but that have gone through probably similar things that I went through growing up in that industry and realizing that um, if you didn't know how to protect yourself, I'm sure after you went in there and got out, you do. And it was really when I became a mom that I changed my focus because it was a dark industry in that way. It was not a place for me to if I was single by myself and wanted to keep kind of going through those motions, I could stay in that industry, but I ended up coming to Atlanta with kind of a different vision that everything I acquired from music, from the artists setting their press kits up,
Hmm.
finding them stylists, their video work, everything that went into creating the image on screen that we all see from artists. I realized that that was also something that businesses were needing more and more
Okay,
because, go
so
ahead.
before I wanna before you go too far, I wanna make sure
Yeah.
we hop in and talk about your experience as a young woman in Hollywood in that scene. Obviously there's a lot of challenges. We have so much coming out right now. Is there any advice you can share with women who may be on a similar path that you took originally? Is there anything that you can share to kind of give them guidance on what to look for, what's important, and how it's a part of, essentially everybody has their story, right? So that seems like that was a evolution for you, going through those experiences, the ups and downs, which ultimately made you who you are today, which
Hmm.
is this successful person that connects with a lot of people and adds tremendous value. So from your perspective, what can you say to the young woman who is in Hollywood? She's trying to find her footing. She doesn't necessarily have a great support system anymore, as mentioned earlier in the conversation. What can they do, and how should they look at the world? And are there any places where they can get information now that maybe you didn't have at that time?
Yeah. And that actually gave me chills when you said that. Because 20 years ago, women were not running, especially in hip hop, because that was the industry I chose. They
Mhm.
weren't very prevalent. And there's going to be predatory people. especially at the height and the places that I was able to, like the rooms I was able to be in.
Sure.
Um, and I would say that don't be afraid to make sure that everything you do from the moment you walk in that door, you get your paperwork in, like you present it first. This is how the story is going to go from the time I enter this room, because I have value and I'm going to go in that way. So that would be the first thing, is make sure you have your own little piece of paper that says I get credit for these things that I am going to do with you. The
Gotcha.
second thing that I would say is, now that they do have so many women running, big production companies, studios, artists, find an older mentor that has been there before, that can steer you into places that will help you and keep you from places that will not. Because there is a lot of, I actually wrote something a long time ago called Dreams for Sale. And
Ah.
there is something to be said about, these people will sell you a dream and you will follow. And if you follow blindly, like I did, and think that the world is made of all good, good humans,
Right.
you will get severely taken advantage of. And I just want, you to understand that as a young woman, you have your life ahead of you. There's so many opportunities that you're going to be able to grasp, but if you don't grab them in the right way, then they're not even going to be worth it at the end. Like, yes, the experience is great that I went through, and I got to see things that people will live their whole lives and never see, and be in certain spaces, but um I wish I had a mentor that was more knowledgeable in the industry, and a woman, because there is a different experience when you're a woman going through these different scenarios. So she's going
Oh,
to be able to help you.
right. So, would you say that you're a person that people could reach out to for that support? Is that
For
something?
sure.
Okay, because
For
I know you do.
sure.
Yeah. So, I would suggest all women that are, maybe going through some of these things, maybe reach out to the music lady and have a conversation and get that mentorship, get that wisdom so that you don't make some of the same mistakes. Ultimately, it's all about information. And sometimes we walk around in an ignorant state, and people are just not available, or we don't know that they're available. So I'm really happy that you're a resource for these people, and they can also reach out to you just to get that insight, wisdom, direction on how to maneuver, or even help them potentially make a decision on whether or not the industry is even for them.
Right.
Because I find across all industries, because we train people on all type of things ourselves. I find that a lot of times people don't even know that maybe their personality type, maybe who they are, doesn't align with, maybe there are some of their goals, and maybe there's a better place or a better solution that's going to give them better results. So, being from the East Coast, did you ever think about maybe even going to Nashville and getting into it from that perspective? Or was it just, hey, I'm Hollywood, first thing, I'm there, I'm here, you know, that's it, that's all, I'm gonna try to make it work? Or was there any thoughts about moving somewhere else and adding value before you came to Atlanta? I mean, I know Atlanta's the place also, but was there ever a thought to get anywhere else?
Yeah. So I started pretty early, like even before I went to Full Sail, I had been going back and forth. And then shortly after Full Sail, even before I moved to LA, I was very close to like New York. So I was in New York with one of my DJ friends, and I was scoping the scene out there. Um, and then yes, Hollywood was just like, if you can make it anywhere. New York was
Mhm.
just like, it was so close to home, and I was really looking for like the adventure outside, in a world that I knew everything was over there, even though New York is the same thing in a way. Um
Oh, New
I
York
have
is
a
way
uni-
different. New
yeah, I
York
have
is
a unique
different.
perspective with these cities. Like, I will say this, I should have come to Atlanta first.
Ah.
And I say that because Atlanta is also such a huge hub for music, but I will definitely say that the people, for the most part, are there is this southern hospitality still here.
A little
Um,
bit,
you'll
maybe a little
find
bit.
some more people. You will usually I mean, at least in my experience, and maybe that's because I'm grown now and now I know how to, speak up for myself and all these things
Sure.
that when I was young I was not so good at. But Atlanta does have a little bit more community,
Okay.
whereas LA is very self-preserving.
Sure.
So people are not willing or caring to lift you up at all because it's about me, 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 me over there. And I think Atlanta has a little bit more of like the community aspect on anything you want to do. But
Mhm,
I would definitely say it's a safer space when it comes to could be acting, comedy, music, business, real
mhm.
estate. I just feel like the community aspect is way stronger here.
Got it, got it, got it. And so you were in LA. How long were you in LA?
I was in LA for 2 years.
Oh,
I,
okay. Because
yep.
it seemed longer based on
No,
what
I
you were
know.
saying.
A lot of things happen.
Mhm.
I moved to Vegas after that.
Okay.
And that was like by way of just I was I wasn't making the things that were supposed to be happening weren't the tables weren't turning. I wasn't feeling very I was feeling like the that I was making everybody look really good in LA, but I was again not getting any credit for the work that I was doing. And I was there and they would call on me whenever I was needed, which was anytime we were in the studio or needed any information on that tip. But I was just the moving wasn't really happening for me there like I felt like I needed it to be. So I
Yeah.
moved to Vegas. And I fell into, because we all need money to survive, I fell into being a promoter.
Okay.
And I promoted the biggest clubs, nightclubs and strip clubs. I was not, there wasn't a ton, like, there was a lot of bottle girls, there was a lot of strippers, there was a lot of girls doing ladies of the night type activity. I was
Mhm.
very much like a hustler, so I could get people to the club. And so there wasn't again, not a ton of girls doing that aspect, but I was getting people to the club. I was making really good money. I was still working in a couple studios over there. But I was really just I was learning the art of Vegas and how, to become like a top promoter. And I
It
just,
sounds like it sounds like you were learning the art of relationship building
yeah,
and connecting people and getting people to a centralized vision or or at least a goal. I
yeah,
think when people, when everybody's on their journey, you don't know the things that you do on the journey, you don't know how it's going to affect you later or add value to you later. So it sounds like it was a really big part of you building up, just your strength in terms
hmm,
of, hey, life is not great, but I'm gonna get out here and I'm gonna work and I'm gonna solve a problem. I'm gonna get my bills paid and I'm gonna also respect myself. I think that is to be commended because some people like going the easy way, with less
hmm,
challenges. But at the
hmm,
end of the day, some of those challenges or some of the easiness that you feel at the moment doesn't become easy later because now there's this regret. And so it's really admirable that you decided to just be a hustler and learn from that experience and then move on and evolve into the person you are today. So
yeah, it definitely Vegas
mhm,
got me out of my shell finally. That shell
right,
that just kept me quiet and I didn't want to speak up too much. You have to. First of all, when you're in that space, you have to. You have
right.
to, grab people and get people excited and create this atmosphere of, so it becomes a part of you. And I will say it definitely did that. And so a note I will just make before anything is I always say to guys who are fathers, because I had such a good one, that even if you are not there for your daughter's in her life, her entirety, what you plant in her brain, it will, if you teach her to be strong, independent, not dependent on her body, not dependent, he used to always say, it's your mind that's going to matter. And if you do that, I promise you, she's going to walk into the right rooms beyond you.
Right. Ooh, I love that. I love that. That's great advice. I hope all the listeners listen to that and take that to heart. It is your mind. Your mind controls your reality. It creates your reality. And so now we're in Atlanta.
We're in Atlanta.
We're in Atlanta. You know, I met you a while back. You talked to me about branding. Branding is such a huge and important thing, but when you go through these experiences, it can mean even more. And so, if you don't mind, tell us how you got started in, you know, working with businesses, just doing branding for everybody instead of just people in the music industry. Like, how did that transition happen? What does that look like?
Well, I didn't even know that the small business or the people that, weren't, franchises and corporate really, I guess it clicked to me about 10 years ago is when I kind of started, or 8 years ago when I first got to Atlanta. So yeah, it'll be about 10 years this year. So when I got here, I just realized that as I was telling people my story and what I used to do with the music and the artists, I would get different business owners that I would meet, and they would say, "Oh, do you know how to do this?" And it would be things like, "Can you design? Can you do this design? Do you know how to build this? Do you have knowledge of POS systems?" Or and it would be little intricate things, and I would just start taking a job here and a job here, and I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to do that. Yeah, I know how to do that." And
Mhm.
over the years, it just started clicking until about 4, 5 years ago. I went, I was almost full time branding. I mean, I used to do bartending and stuff on the side, but I ended up getting with a home inspection radon mitigation company who was like a one man show. And at that time, just to give you perspective, he would sell his radon systems because he was doing the answering of the phones and the
Sure.
email communication. And I saw his branding, and he did the best he could, right? It was very cluttered, I would like to say. I like neat,
Sure.
clean, and direct with branding, and like the pops are really important. But it looked good. But his systems at that time for radon were $1,000. And I went in with him, and I said, "I don't know." He said, "You could really do this. Like, can you like run this for me? Like the whole brand and, rebrand it." And I'm like, "I mean, yeah, but I know nothing about this, but yeah, it's the same thing, right? For everything." So of course, with everybody that I work with, I learn about their industry, their competitors. I do analysis of the whole lot, um, and so once I had an idea of what exactly it was that he was doing and the power that he already had, which his power at that time was, he had like 75 reviews, 5 stars.
Mhm.
He was doing good work. The way he did work was very like dotted all I's, crossed all T's. So the professionalism was there. He
Mhm.
just needed the mask, right? He needed people to see him the way he actually conducted business.
Sure.
And so I redid the website, redid all of his systems so that a lot of it was automated, cut things out, added like auxiliaries on some of his systems that could be added as extras. And within the first year of rebranding his company, at that time he started, it was when I started he did like 100,000. And by the second year, he did 186,000. By
Ah,
the third year, he was over 3.
okay.
And it was only branding. His system price went from 1,000 to like today. We're 4 years in. Today his systems are 2,700.
Wow.
So there is, I like to use that story because it is the perfect package of someone. Like, I took the reins of his brand. I knew exactly where he was weak visually. Also in communication, I think that people miss the communication factor, and because of my worldly travels and all these people that I've
Sure.
gotten to meet, I know how to, you know, the friendly piece of it, making sure that people feel like you care, giving them the back end of like maybe reporting a certain way, or at the end giving them this certificate that they get to have for their home, that it's a certified system. Like, these little things that you do can change your price. Your bottom line goes up when your branding is right. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at today, is I do that for everybody and anybody in any industry. I look at them from where they're at. I find out where they're strong, and
Hmm.
I help them where they're weak. And that could be even with how, maybe who they hire, because we talk about personalities.
Hmm.
Who are you putting in what position? And is that position right for what they're going to need to do next? And just kind of assisting them along the way. Loyalty programs I create for different
Hmm.
businesses, so that they have people that care and feel like they're a part of something. So that's, now I'm
Yeah.
the branding lady.
So do you specialize in any particular vertical, or do you feel like you can work with any brand and elevate any type of brand? You know.
Yeah, anybody. I've worked with politicians, like a
Mhm.
single person, right? Because to
Mhm.
that's almost easier, because I look at it like it's an artist, right? So it's
Yeah,
like
sure.
that's very, very, that's like my I got you. But I've got cleaners, and I've got realtors, and I've got there's restaurants, and it doesn't really matter. You could be any, clothing lines. I've actually an artist, like a paint, he does resin art, as one of my clients. So it doesn't matter what you are. Obviously, you're not going to, how I design, or help design your brand. Um, if you're a cleaning company, it is going to, the look of it and the feel of it is going to be different than my veiled resin
Sure, sure.
artist. But the process that I take is not very different, because I'm looking at the most important thing I will give to any brand who is either starting or needs to redesign their brand is, get your fonts right. Pick a couple that matter to you, that you're going to pop in different pieces of your brand personality, as well as your colors. And then once you do that, and have, if you don't have a logo, that we can, my company can help with, but um, just know who you are. And even if you don't know who you are as the owner of the business. And that
Sure.
also resonates through your brand.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So this has been a great conversation. And to sum it up, what's the power of branding, your perspective? What is the power of it?
The power of branding is that you will be noticed, uh,
Hmm.
by everyone, right? If you have a powerful brand, then they know who you are without even it saying, "Hi, I'm Bobby the branding lady." They already know your brand
Hmm.
because of the way the uniform may look, or the way you sign something on a flyer, or they just scroll by a post of yours. They already know it's yours. The power of branding is, if you have a powerful brand, then you have identified who you are, to the point where everybody that sees you also gets that picture.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I have enjoyed it. We went from the bottom to the top. Man, make sure you reach out to Bobbi Muzic, the music lady, on IG. Get your branding together, come together, get that support. Also, if you're looking for mentoring, if you're in Hollywood, if you're in entertainment industry, please reach out to Bobbi to get some insight, or at least get that wisdom, so that you can go to the next level and brand yourself, and maybe you can increase your value to the point where you don't even have to work for someone. It sounds like this lady has all the answers when it comes to that. And so I'm excited to see who reaches out. And I look forward to having a deeper conversation very, very soon. So thank you so much for joining us right here at Straight Talk with Dr. Cam. This has been a phenomenal conversation. And thank you so much.
Thank you.